Good morning, everybody, on this nice May morning. I'd like to continue our next installment of discussing Mנחem Begin, Zechreinu Livracha. And I want to try to line up his hashkafas, his outlook, with what was fueling all his activities, and he and of the Irgun. He as the continuation of his mentor, Vladimir Zev Jabotinsky. So, I have there the plan of the British. Was this what Lord Balfour intended? Now, we know all the way back there was a nice British statesman named Lord Balfour, that he's the one that got up and said the Jews should have a homeland in Palestine, and there hadn't been anybody, perhaps in years, perhaps ever, that gave such a statement like that. It was very, very exciting. It got mixed reviews like anything among the Jewish people. But some of our greatest, including the Chafetz Chaim and Rav Meir Simcha Cohen of Dvinsk, and a host of stars, said, this looks like it's divine. This looks like a divine message over here. We didn't expect our call to Israel to come this way, but all right, everybody has their own vision of what's going to be when Mashiach comes. But all right, let it be Lord Balfour. England's in power. They owned like who knows what percent of the world back then, and if he says go back, we'll go back. So initially, people got excited, they're cautiously excited, and they figured, okay, the British are inviting us to come back to Palestine, it's going to be great. However, as time moved on, and Balfour moved on, and other people came in charge, it began to crystallize that, as I have there number one, not Palestine as a home, but a home in Palestine. That's a big difference, and the British made that difference very clear. If Palestine is a home, so that's more what we had in 48, then all Jews are welcome to come, and we shouldn't have to worry about people attacking us, which still goes on anyway. But basically the Jews are in the driver's seat, and you don't have countries telling you what to do, which is still have in many forms, but it's basically a Jewish home. A home in Palestine means Jews. You need some place to go, you need some place to hide, you could come over here. It's a home in Palestine, but Palestine's not your home, and we're going to tell you what to do, and you're going to share, and you're going to do exactly what you're told, or else. It's a very, very big difference. Now, the British figured, and this is what I'm telling you comes from Begin's book, Revolt. They figured, well, look at this. This is our chance to be in the spotlight. We believe in the Bible, and the Jews are the people of the book and the people of the land, and they have all these problems. So if we can invite them back to hang out in Palestine, it'll be good for them, it'll be good for us, it'll be just wonderful. They'll have to share with the Arabs. The Arabs will have the upper hand. And on top of all that, this is going to make us look good with the other countries, especially America. Yeah, people say we're the good guy over here, inviting the Jews back. It'll be good for business. It'll be a good move. So as time moved on, it became more and more apparent that line number one, though, was exactly what it was going to be, and it was going to get worse. Now, number two, Jewish immigration and the cycle to control it. So, I used to daven with a saintly old fellow named Rabbi Michal Sanders. Rabbi Michal Sanders, if you know Baltimore, was a gentle little old man. He used to be a shamus in a shul, lived on Falstaff Road, if that means anything to anybody. His kids and grandkids are there. Rabbi Michal Sanders was a very sweet man, but he walked with a wobble. He could walk, but his walking was off kilter. We never understood, very, very pleasant fellow, we never understood, but we found out that in 1929, he was studying in the Chevron Yeshiva in Hebron. There's a Chevron Yeshiva now in Israel, but it's not in Hebron. Because if you study anything about Hebron is a very, very frightening place for Jews to live. People want to be there because that's where our grandparents are buried, but Hebron is very, very dangerous. When I went to Israel, and I went to Hebron, that was the only place that they said, you're going in a bulletproof bus. And if you've ever been in that, it's a very strange feeling. And it gets stranger because as the bus pulls into Hebron, you are in a sea of Arabs. Now, they're not necessarily out to make trouble, but as a Jew from Baltimore in a bulletproof bus going through a sea of Arabs, whatever it is, it's a little disconcerting. And then it gets better. As the bus gets closer and closer to lay you off to Ma'aras Machpelah, where our ancestors are buried, I saw the largest Israeli military installation I had seen my whole time in Israel. This huge police station with Israeli police and Israeli soldiers and soldieresses, chayalim and chayalot, and it seemed business as usual, but just to see that tells you, that many cops here, something's going on. So then when you get out, so you're all excited, you're going to where our grandparents are buried, very exciting, Adam and Eve. So you get one more little thing for dessert. The smiling tour guide, who was a TA boy from Baltimore when he was younger. You can run wherever you want, your old place finds you. He says, by the way, watch your wallet. Thanks a lot. First I'm watching bullets, watch my wallet. They said there's a custom here in Hebron. 2 little Arab boys will come. One will sell you ice cream, kosher ice cream, the best hashgacha, and when you're doing it and getting a change, the other one will pick your pocket. This is the tour. This is our welcome to Hebron. All right. So Hebron is a very small Jewish community. They have their own water supply, and they have their own water supply for a reason. There are some very brave Jews that live there. Some more keep moving. It's not easy. But Hebron Yeshiva and Hebron used to have a bigger Jewish population. In 1929, Rabbi Michael Sanders was an American boy learning in Hebron when there were a lot more Jews there. And in 1929, there was a horrid Arab pogrom, completely out of control. It seemed the police were looking the other way, and Jews were stabbed and stabbed and stabbed. I won't get into the details because you have food here. Rabbi Sanders, this is a Baltimore fact, was stabbed 17 times and he lived. And it was explained to people in the shul. We used to dive with him by a Rabbi Vitzik. Rabbi Vitzik used to be head of Levendale and Sinai Hospital in Baltimore. It was explained to us that's why Rabbi Sanders walks a little funny, because he was stabbed by Arabs 17 times, so he's lucky to be alive. So you read about these pogroms, maybe even meet some people that either they or their children were there, and then you start wondering, what started that Arab pogrom? Did the British have anything to do with it? It brings back memories. Remember from high school when maybe you learned about the French and Indian, American, British War, whatever you want to call it. Although that war, I think in most of our high school educations, they don't spend so much time on the French, American, Indian, and British War. But if you study anything, Earl knows about that war, but the rest of us don't know so much about it. But that's where Washington became Washington, serving under the British over there, Braddock and all those people, near Pittsburgh, where they messed up big time. But the thing was, if you study that war at all the books say the British were inciting the Indians against the Americans. That's part of the whole pot over there. So you began to wonder when you hear about these pogroms in Hebron and other places, did the British incite? So Begin says the British incited that, and they incited much, much more. Now there are very depressing, detailed studies of all these pogroms that happen in Israel where the police had very strange movements. They would look the other way, they would not look the other way, and there's a lot of books written to prove that the British had their hand in it big time. So Begin explains like this. Let me talk about number 2, Jewish immigration and the cycle to control it. The British figured like this. We want to welcome the Jews to Israel, but not too much. Our plan is only going to work. We have to balance that it's mostly Arabs, some Jews, we're in control, but we really got to control immigration. We absolutely must control immigration. Only a limited amount of Jews can come in. Now what's the cycle? The British figured like this. These Jews are going to run here. And whenever we feel too many Jews are coming here, we have to shake them up. So what we're going to do is, we're going to let our Arab friends know we need to rough up some Jews. You even could kill a few. So, of course, and we're going to be the good guy mediator, big daddy mediator. So Begin explains the cycle would be, and this is all what's fueling all those Jews from the Irgun and Haganah from way back when to have to do whatever it takes, is they figured when there's too many Jews coming, let's get the Arabs starting up with them. And then, when it's been just enough bloodshed, we'll step in. The big brother England will step in. What do they call? One second. Our country, the symbol is Uncle Sam. What's British's country in the cartoons?
John Bull.
John Bull, yeah. Thank you, Bruce. So John Bull will step in and he'll say, we have to make a commission. We have to make a commission of inquiry. Now you fellas know that always happens to Israel nowadays too. Anything goes on, actually anything in this country too. We're going to make a commission. We're doing something. We're going to make a commission. So that looks really good. Make a commission of inquiry, and we'll study everything, and we'll have psychologists. We'll discuss Arab rights and Israeli rights and all this kind of business. And then after we do a study, and we look very sophisticated, we'll make a white paper. The British had a number of white papers, and if white usually symbolizes pure and clean, that ain't this paper over here. And then we'll make a white paper, tighten up some rules, and we will close the faucet on immigration, and we'll keep doing it, and doing it, and doing it. And Begin said that they had no question. They had their own proofs that this is what was going on. And this is why all the Jews that said, well, it'll be okay, don't make such a tumult, speak nice, be diplomatic. So that's why they are good and Haganah. These people got to a point where no more than this, the nice guy. Don't you see what's going on over here? Jews are getting killed in Europe and Russia. They're trying to come here, and the British have this cycle. Jews are getting too comfortable. Too many Jews coming. Arabs, pick on them, bring in eyes. We'll step in and say, ding! End of the third round. We'll make a commission, and then we'll make a white paper. And that's what we're going to keep doing. But we're going to always look like the nice guy till everybody figures out what's going to be. I wrote there in 1944 because the British white paper, one of the white papers said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to tell everybody that we're going to get 75,000 more Jews to enter Palestine by 1944, and we're going to make sure that Nebuch, 2,500 of those persecuted German Jews, make sure we get some of them. So, we're going to look good, and then we'll close it up. And of course, for World War II, many, many times later on, you had America, especially Truman, screaming numbers, 100,000, 100,000, let the Jews in, let the Jews in. You have that a lot. But here we have 75,000. But it was very important. There got to be 2,500 of those poor German Jews, because we British, we're very nice. Now, I'm not saying all British were bad. I got to tell you, I had a meeting for a program I'm working on in Baltimore with a Mr. and Mrs. Lentz. Mrs. Lentz is British. Mrs. Lentz is a little bit younger than me. She went to seminary in Israel. So she told me that when the seminary teachers would teach Israeli history, and she would say British, she would look at Rebecca Lentz and go, the British. And Rebecca just for me, I'm a nice Jewish girl. Whenever she would have a chance to read the British, this teacher would look at poor Rebecca, who wasn't a Lentz then, and say, the British. Maybe they weren't all bad, but there was a lot of trouble. So from this, we have to move on to reality. So that's the British plan. Now the reality was, regardless of what Britain thinks they're going to do, and if it's going to be a home in Palestine, a home, in Poland, you had millions of Jews surrounded by anti-Semitism. In the Baltic and Balkan countries, you had hundreds of thousands of Jews, and anti-Semitism was foiling everything. Because there were a lot of Jews, they got assimilated, and they got big degrees, and they thought they could get whatever job they want. But all the doors were closing. You could have the best university degree, the best diploma. All the doors were closing. So it became clear to the Jews, we have to get out of here, and we're going to do whatever it takes, whatever risks, because we can't stay here anymore. That was the reality. So Britain can have all their highfalutin ideas about restrictions on us, but the need is we had to get out. Things were not getting better. And the Jews were in shock. Rabbi Wein always likes to point out, not so long before the Holocaust, there were Jewish dignitaries in the government in the Weimar Republic in Germany. Jews never thought in a million years that things were going to happen. But things were happening. They were happening fast. The Jews had to get out, and somebody had to get them out, no matter what it was. So that's why we have B2. Isn't that a vitamin, Bruce? Irgun, Haganah, and Beitar rise to the task. I always love seeing the word Beitar because my father belonged to that when he was younger. So they made up their mind. We are pushing all the rules aside, and we are going to get out thousands of Jews, no matter what it takes, no matter what vehicles we have to use. We just have to get them out. We absolutely must get them out, whatever it takes. Now, of course, there was fights. There were other Jews that said, no, don't break the rules. How's it going to look? And you need to know, that same argument happened in this country in the 40s. In the 40s, Jewish leadership really had loggerheads. You had people like Rabbi Eliezer Silver, Rabbi Aaron Cutler, these heads of yeshivas, that their ideas was, get out, whoever you can, however you do, bribe, do whatever it is, send packages, whatever you got to do, get them out. And then you had other Jewish leaders that said, no, we got to follow every single one of Roosevelt's rules. Don't do anything illegal, it's going to look bad, it's going to mess everything up. So we'll have to speak one time. There was a very big clash over sending packages overseas between Rabbi Eliezer Silver and Rabbi Stephen S. Weiss from the Reform Movement. It was a very big clash about that. But in the beginning, all the Jews were trying to follow all the rules. And then, of course, the big historians were scared. Aren't you afraid that General Grant is going to issue another Order 11 and throw all the Jews out of the Civil War again? Aren't you afraid? Even though Lincoln fixed all that, But there comes a point where you try to be diplomatic and you hold on as long as you can, but they felt nothing is working over here. We have to get the Jews out to Israel no matter what. And we'll use any crazy vehicle we can, any ship, anything we can. We got to get them out. So that's why by number 2 I wrote over there, Pidyon Shvuyim, redemption of captives. We're going to see today from a Rambam and maybe Gemara Bava Basra how redeeming of the captives is from the highest mitzvahs that we have. And that's how Begin and people saw it back then. The Jews are one big captivity over there. They're being tortured, they're being killed. Things are getting worse before they get better. Got to get them out. And we're going to have to break whatever, we're going to do whatever we have to do, and people can criticize us. Let them criticize us, but we got to save some people, no matter who they are. Now, British justification, right? So we're thinking, well, come on, the British can't be all bad. I mean, there was a media, there was a press then. Now, of course, it's not a press like there is now that knows everything before it's going to happen. But there must be some kind of British justification, at least. What are they going to say? What are they going to tell the world? So the British had a few strategies. So people came to the British and said, the Jews are suffering. Hitler's getting more powerful, and you're closing the doors over there. So the British said, oh, you don't understand. We're the kindest country. Do you know why we're stopping those ships that the Irgun and Haganah and Beitar are trying to send here? And there were ships, and there were other countries helping also. Italy was helping. There were plenty of other, very unlikely. There was Romania was trying to help out with things. And Britain always managed to get in the way. Great Britain said, you don't understand. We want to save Jews. But have you seen the ships they're coming in on? They're not fit for a dog. Why, those refugee ships, they're floating coffins. Of course we British have to stop it. We would like to see the Jews come, but we can't have them coming here in those dilapidated, smelly, overcrowded ships. It's unhygienic, so we have to stop it. Now, you got to see the forest for the trees over here. But these were their public statements. This is Begin quotes all this in his book. And if you think in your life, there's probably many, many times where somebody was trying to get something good done, and someone says, it's unhygienic, it's not clean enough, it's not exactly by the rules. You're cutting off your nose to spite your face. But that was one of their excuses. But that wasn't the big one. The big one was C2. Is that a vitamin, Bruce?
I'm not sure about that one.
Maybe there's a vitamin called Bruce, who knows? Anyway, the House of Commons and military concerns. So the press came to the British authorities and they said, you're cruel. Even if you don't like Jews, but come on, look what's going on over there. And you promised them a land, you got the land, let them go. They're not coming to your country. That happens to be, there were plenty of Jews that got saved going to their country, especially in the kinder transports. We have people in Baltimore, maybe you have here too. People in the 70s and 80s, and they were saved by being smuggled out. The parents weren't saved, but they were saved. But we have a wonderful lady, Emmy Mogilensky. She used to work for the Jewish Museum of Baltimore, and she was one of the children that was saved with the kinder transports. And a lot of children did wind up in Stratford in Great Britain. But they asked the British, what's your answer to all this? So they said, oh, you have it all wrong. Who do you think we're fighting this world for? We're fighting World War II to save the poor Jews. Oh, you say that we're callous? You don't understand. Oh, our soldiers, they're out there risking their life every day. It's for freedom for the world. And of course, the poor Jews, we're fighting on behalf of the Jews. And we really hope that when we win the war, we'll be able to get all the Jews back to their homes in Europe. But you know what we're really scared of? We'll tell you why we really can't let the Jews leave. We think there's some German spies mixed in there. They actually told us, it's too dangerous. If all these Jews are going to come out in these dilapidated boats, there's going to be some German spies in there. They'll penetrate the Middle East, and it'll endanger British interests for the war. And this is very, very serious. So Begin says the British High Commissioner in Yerushalayim was told to always use this argument that if anyone said anything that Great Britain was cruel, just say, it's not that we're cruel, no, we're kind. Well, you see, because the ultimate goal is we have to win the war and save the world and save the Jews, and we can't risk any German spies, so we can't let anybody in. Now, in hindsight, you say, how could anybody bought into that garbage? But Begin says that's what they were selling on the news. The funky things on the news also, and they got away with it. But Begin and their good and all those people, they were not going to let them get away with it. So I'm just sharing all these things with you, is this was going on in the head of the quote-unquote militant Israelis. What they saw, we have no choice, and we're going to do whatever we have to do to save the Jewish people. Begin was a learned person. Now, I've showed you this picture before. For a while, when the British were trying to track him down and hang him, he was disguised as a Kollel fellow, and he was in yeshiva for quite a while. He was a somewhat observant fellow anyway, but he knew a lot. He knew a lot. He had a Torah education, picked up more in Israel. I have a friend, Sam Levin, in Baltimore, lives on Boxford, if you know where that is. And Sam told me that he had the pleasure, when he was in Israel, he got to sit right next to Begin in Shul on Yontif. It's nice to have a prime minister that goes to Shul on Yontif. So he knew a lot. Now, Begin, it's very possible Begin knew this Rambam. And when you hear this Rambam coupled with the historical facts that Begin's giving us, you really see the motivation for why somebody would want to redeem captives. And redeeming captives, it doesn't have to be the classical way behind bars. A person can be a captive in many, many forms. So the Rambam says like this, and this Maimonides can be found in the laws of Matanos Aniyim, gifts for the poor. That's where he includes it. Says the Rambam, if you have a designated amount of money, and you're not sure, should I use the $1,000 to redeem captives or to give to the poor? Redeeming for the captives comes first before any other mitzvah. Top of the list. Says the Rambam, Ein lecha mitzvah gedola kepidyon shruyim. There is no other great mitzvah like redeeming captives. Why? Because a captive is included in the verse. There's a verse in the Torah that speaks about saving the hungry, saving the thirsty, saving the naked, and saving those who are in danger. The Rambam says someone's in prison, that's all. You're in all those categories over there. You're in all of them. People in prison, they're hungry, they're thirsty, they're, for all intents and purposes, obviously naked or uncomfortable, and they're in constant danger. So Bruce, we got to save them. And you know how to do it. The Rambam says, now here's the killer. He says, anyone that's malim einav, hides their eyes from redeeming the captives, you get the following sin list. And he puts some on here you wouldn't expect. Rambam says these are the sins you get if you have a chance. Now remember, for different people it's different things. For Mנחem Begin's group, it's going in with a bomb and blowing up the Akko fortress, which we'll talk about another time, or coming in with a machine gun. For somebody else, it could be writing a letter to your congressman. It could be making a phone call. Each person their own way. For some people, it's a check. For some people, it's a bomb. Or, it's all going to be different. But Maimonides says, if you hide your eyes, you ignore redeeming captives, here's what you're guilty of. Number one, lo ta'ametz et levavcha. Let your heart not be stubborn. Lo tikbos etz yadcha. Do not keep your hand closed. Open your hand. Here's a big one. Lo tamad al dam reyecha. Do not stand idly by the blood of your neighbor. Next sin, lo yerdenu befarech leinecha. Let not your neighbor be worked with backbreaking work before your eyes. And then there's a few more, just when you think couldn't get any worse. He said you have a chance to fulfill the mitzvah of Hasoach Tiftach. Open up your hand to those in need. Then there's another verse, V'chaya checha imach. Do everything you can to keep your brother or sister alive with you. And of course, V'yahavta l'reicha kamocha. Love your neighbor like yourself. If God forbid you were in prison, you'd want Earl to bring in the troops to get you out. So do unto others you have done to you. And then the Rambam says one more, V'hatseal l'kuchim l'mavis. Save those who were taken for death. And the Rambam says I can tell you even more things. Concludes Maimonides, V'ein lecha mitzvah rabba kepidyon shvuyim. You have no great mitzvah like redeeming the captives. So I think there's a good chance that Begin knew this Rambam, and it definitely was motivating him towards doing all the things he did, whether we understand it or not. So I don't want to keep you too long. I just want to add one thing. I'm going to save Roman numeral 3 and 4, all those other Talmudic things, some proofs, some challenges to Begin for next time. But I just want to end with something from Shulchan Aruch. If you look in the Code of Jewish Law, they quote this Rambam in its entirety, and I think the Maharik adds one line. If you find out that you need to do something to help Jewish captives, every minute you wait, it's like you're a killer. It says that in the Code of Jewish Law. And you know how it is, you get a letter about something, you get a phone call, you get an email, you want to push it off. It says in the Code of Jewish Law, every moment you wait, you could be responsible for someone getting hurt, for somebody getting killed, so help them. Don't wait. Very powerful business. So with Hashem's help, next time we'll continue with the Gemara in Megillah that, with the help of some commentaries, will give more fuel to redeeming. However, we're going to see some other Gemaras, as we're going to see from Gittin and some other places, that are going to be some challenges, that there may be some rules about getting out captives, even though it's very important, but we may have to look at the whole picture, because there's going to be some cases where sometimes you think you're saving, but something may happen in the next part. Thank you very, very much, and everyone should have a beautiful week and a great Memorial Day.